All right, so let's do a quick walkthrough of adding the first product to your online store completely from scratch. So I'm already logged into an administrative account and I can navigate to the back end or the administrative portal of my website by clicking this button here. Click on the products tab and this will give you an overview of all the items that are set up in your system. Click this button on the top right and give your new product a name. So let's say I want to add a package of ground pork, and this title does display on the front end of your website, so make sure this title is something logical for your customer. Now you can charge for items one or two ways inside of GraceCart. So you can set up items to be sold by the package, which would just be a static price per unit. Or you could set up items to be sold by the pound or by the weight. So if you have muscle cuts like steaks and roasts and your processor can't portion control those items, real close, you're going to want to charge for those type of products by the weight. And this is a feature that makes GraceCart really unique and tailored to farmers and ranchers. There's a couple other details you want to know about how, weighted items work and how they charge. And how you would go about, updating weights on a given order. So we'll do a separate video on that. So for now, let's just set this back to package and put a price in here and a weight for this item. Click save, and we have a couple display options right away. We can add a photo. We can assign this to a collection, which is basically a category on our store that helps the customer navigate what they're looking for. So this would fall in our pork category. And a tag is basically a subcategory inside of a collection. So it's a way just to break it down even further for your customer. And I'll put a screenshot. I'll load one here that'll show where both of these two fields are displayed. We can add ingredients to the item. We can create an item description, and you have quite a bit of control over the styling on the description here. So you can get pretty crazy with this. You can add links, images. You can customize the HTML if you know how to get that in depth. Or you could also paste a YouTube link to a video, and that would insert the video into the description here. But those are some of the display options. If we head over to price and weight, here we can update the price that we just put in. We could add a sale price to this item, and let's say if we had a sale price for $7 per package. To make the sale live, we would just toggle yes here and click save. And then you would need to remember to come back and change this and disable the sale once the sale's over. You can change again how the price is calculated by the weight or the package, update the weight. We can add an item cost in case you want to reference the cost of your products inside of GraceCart. And we can also add what we call pricing groups to every single product as well. So if you have like a certain group of customers who get special pricing, maybe it's a membership or loyalty program, you can assign those to products right here. And there'll be a separate video on product groups, or you can read more about those in the documentation. Moving on to inventory. Right here at the top, we have our online virtual inventory. So this is the inventory that is available to sell. So if I had this set to 10 and someone placed an order on my website for 5 packages of ground pork, so it automatically deduct to 5 packages. So this inventory is always going to be live. And as soon as this would hit 0, once I sell out, the product on the front end of my website will display as sold out, and customers will no longer have the opportunity to place an order for it until more inventory is added. So let's see here. If there was a case where we didn't want to track inventory on an item, we never wanted it to sell out, we could go ahead and move it to do not track inventory, and that would actually just remove the inventory field entirely. But let's change that back. We can create a bundle of products, and basically if you toggle yes here, this will create a new tab, a bundle tab here at the top right. And this is basically where you would create the bundle. So you could add other products that are in GraceCart already to this bundle. You can actually have a bundle share inventory with the individual products that make up the bundle. So let's say this was like a variety pack, okay? And I was selling a bundle of, what's inside my system? Ground sirloin, and maybe there's 5 packages in this bundle. And let's see, maybe I can add multiple items here. So maybe this bundle also includes, do I have eggs? Here I think I have pork chops. So yeah, 5 packages of pork chops. Now, every single time that this bundle sells, if someone was to purchase this on the front end of our website, it would automatically deduct 5 packages from the ground sirloin inventory and 5 packages from the pork chop inventory. That way I'm not having to maintain a separate inventory for my bundled item and also for the individual products. So that's quite a handy feature. But that's obviously not what we're doing here. So let's delete these real quick. Remove. Head back to the inventory tab. Disable the bundle. There's a couple other inventory fields down here. So if you maintain inventory either at your processor, you can reference that here. This is basically just a static field for your reference. Same thing with the other inventory field down here. If you have offsite inventory somewhere else and you need to use have another field, that's there for your convenience. This is where we really zoom into the weeds. So there's a lot of different settings here. So we're not going to go over every single one, but right here at the top, you can toggle the visibility. So if you set this to no, this item will not display on the front end of my website. So if you want to remove something so your customers don't see it, but you don't want to actually delete the product because you might want to add it back again later, this is kind of how you can toggle the visibility. So I would just change that to no and hit save. Or even you might want to do this as soon as you create a product. You want to make it invisible while you're adding the details. That way your customer doesn't see any of the changes that you're making. But let's toggle this back. You can obviously set up this item to be taxable. And tax rates can be set up. You can have a default tax rate, I believe, in your main settings, or you can set up tax rates on your pickup locations or delivery zones. If you have a SKU system, you can set that up here with that field. Add in your barcode. What else do we have? Packing groups. If this was an item that I purchased from another vendor, you can create and assign vendors from here. Right now I don't have any vendors set up, but there is documentation on that. Keywords here. So these are the keywords that you would plug in for this item to help your customers search your store. So if they're using that search field, I'll put a description that shows where that's at, or a screenshot. If they're using that search field, this determines the keywords that they might be looking for to make sure this item would pop up. So maybe you would put ground pork in here. And we don't separate these by commas, you just separate it by spaces. But you also might want to include some common misspellings for, this item. In case someone fat fingers something while they're searching, you might still want this, ground pork to come up for a search, that was missing a few letters or so. Moving on, you can set up a limit per customer. So if this is a product that you only wanted, a certain amount that every customer could purchase, then you could set that up here. You can have an order minimum. So this would be like a blanket minimum for the entire order that the customer would need to meet before they would be able to purchase this item. So if I had it set to $100, nobody would be able to purchase the ground pork until they had at least $100 worth of items in their shopping cart. Exclusivity, this is a pretty handy feature. So if you have a product that should be exclusive to certain pickup locations or certain delivery zones, you can exclude zones and delivery methods from here. So, for a quick example, at Seven Sons, we're not able to ship eggs through FedEx just because of the fragility. After all of that handling, it's very rare that a dozen of eggs could survive the rough transit. So we would remove our eggs from our shipping, our delivery zone that we have set up. But there's obviously a lot of different applications for that. And again, the rest of these fields are pretty fine details, and there's documentation on most of them, so you can research a little further. Once we've made our changes, again, you always want to make sure you click save. The last tab that we have would be our protocols tab. So if you have protocols set up on your Gracecart site, this is where you could apply them to individual products. and there's separate documentation and hopefully a video someday on setting up protocols. But that is the gist of it. If we wanted to, again, if you have your sample items that are already set up and you want to remove them, we can change the visibility setting here and toggle that to no, so it won't display on the front end of our website. Or if you need to delete it entirely, you can go ahead and click this action button and go down to delete. This is a handy feature. You can duplicate products. So if you have a lot of similar items and you need to set up them all at once, you don't want to duplicate or have to recreate the information for every single new item, you can just duplicate the product and it will transfer the photo, it'll transfer the description and all the different settings that you have set up to a separate item. That way you can kind of tweak it from there and maybe have some of the info that you need. So it's just a handy feature to make adding all of your products a little simpler. And let's head to our main settings here to see if there's any details. So again, there's a lot of details and settings in here, and a lot of them may not apply to you right away. For instance, you might not need, you might not have a SKU system. It's handy to have, but you might not have one. You might not have barcodes right away, so a lot of these fields might not get used. So don't let all the information overwhelm you at once. Basically, you need a photo, that's handy, a description, you need to get a price set up for your product and make sure your inventory is correct, and then you can run with it from there. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the video or check out our support docs or maybe even send us a message.